World's largest aircraft carrier to the Middle East ahead of another round of nuclear talks set for Tuesday in Geneva. For more, let's turn to Republican Senator Pete Ricketts. Thank you so much, Senator, for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. Thanks very much for having me on. I appreciate the fact that the president continues to lead these negotiations with peace through strength by sending the Gerald Ford to the Middle East.
Yeah, I was talking to the president on Friday, and he sent some mixed signals. In the morning, he was telling reporters that he felt like negotiations would likely be successful. But by afternoon, he said regime change might actually be the best thing that could happen. He also doubled down on the U.S. position that, the U.S. will accept nothing less than zero nuclear enrichment. What does that tell you about the state of these talks and where things are headed?
We have been negotiating with Iran for a long time, and they have always tried to block us with regard to getting them to stop the nuclear enrichment. I think we've got the best chance now we've had in years. We've got a strong president. Iran is very weak. You see the people there fighting for their freedom. So we've got a lot of opportunity to be able to try and drive this home. It's really important that we don't allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And the president knows you just got to keep maximum pressure on Iran to be able to get to the outcome what we need.
Reuters has been reporting that the U.S. military is preparing for what looks like potentially a weeks-long operation, sustained for some period of time if the president, of course, authorizes an attack on Iran. This is the quote: "In a sustained campaign, the U.S. military could hit Iranian state and security facilities, not just nuclear infrastructure," one of the officials said. The official declined to provide specific details. Experts say the risks to U.S. forces would be far greater in such an operation against Iran, which boasts a formidable arsenal of missiles. Retaliatory Iranian strikes also increase the risk of a regional conflict. Do you see this potentially evolving into a situation that could require U.S. boots on the ground?
I think one of the things the president has been very clear about is that he does not want to see our troops on the ground in countries like Iran. I think what he's going to be looking to do, again, is to put maximum pressure on Iran with regard to these negotiations. We also see, again, that you've got the people of Iran fighting for their own freedom. They were stepping up into the streets. He's, the president, one of the things that you haven't mentioned is the fact that the president has really cut off their foreign reserves, which has led to the 40% inflation Iran is seeing, which sparked the street protests in the first place. So Iran is in a very weak position right now, and I think the president just wants to keep the maximum pressure, whether it's going to be economic pressure or the threat of military pressure.
Yeah, to your point, I believe in just a couple weeks' time, those sanctions, additional sanctions on any country doing business with Iran can go into effect. And of course, there was Operation Midnight Hammer that severely weakened the regime and all of the tools that it has. But as to the timeline for this, the president sent the USS Gerald R. Ford. It's going from Venezuela to the Middle East. They've already been deployed for 8 months. And if there's the potential for a sustained operation, do you have any concerns about U.S. readiness in the region, especially if a regional conflict that becomes sort of embroiled sparks up?
Well, our women and men in uniform are just heroes, and they know when they sign up that they're there to protect the nation, and that doesn't come on a time schedule always. So I'm sure that the military has got them really as prepared as they can be going into this, and we've got the best military in the world. It was just demonstrated by how we took Maduro out of Venezuela. No other country in the world could have done that. It was also demonstrated by Operation Midnight Hammer. This is just one of the things that, we're going to have to continue to be vigilant with regard to Iran and continue to apply pressure to them. And hopefully we get an outcome here that we don't have to use the military.
I want to get your thoughts on the Munich Security Conference. It has become sort of the unofficial testing ground for 2028. There were a lot of comparisons being made between last year's address by Vice President J.D. Vance and this year's address by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He got a standing ovation this year. Listen to a piece of what he said.
In a time of headlines heralding the end of the transatlantic era, let it be known and clear to all that this is neither our goal nor our wish. Because for us Americans, our home may be in the Western Hemisphere, but we will always be a child of Europe.
So Rubio's overall points weren't actually all that different from what Vance said last year, but the delivery was somewhat less of a punch in the face for Europe. And it does come after the administration sort of softened its approach domestically with immigration issues. You had the president touting Tom Homan's softer touch, for instance. What do you make of that tone shift we're seeing? Does it have any connection to the midterms?
I actually think this is just the way President Trump likes to negotiate. In this case, it's good cop, bad cop. Obviously, Rubio has been sent to be the good cop here. But look, if you go back and see that the European nations and NATO promised to get to 2% spending of GDP in 2014, and yet by 2022, only 7 of them had. They consistently told President Trump in his first term that they weren't going to get there. President Trump learned that he's got to actually take a tougher line with these European nations to get them to do what they're supposed to be doing in the first place. So I think that now that we're seeing the Europeans start to move, this does give Secretary Rubio some flexibility to take a line that maybe is a little bit softer with them. But remember, in his speech, he also hammered them for being too focused on migration and climate change and not worried enough about the having a lethal military to deter Russia. So his points, what you said, his points were the same. Look, you guys got to step up. You got to defend yourselves. You have to spend on defense. You got to be lethal, and you got to stop worrying about these things that are detracting from the lethality of your militaries.
2028 Democrats were also testing the waters in Munich, and AOC really struggled to answer a question on whether the U.S. should defend Taiwan if China invades. Listen to this. Oh, we don't have that sound. Well, I'm sure you've seen the headlines. She really struggled to deliver that answer. Want to get your thoughts on that, and also it leads us into the next question. You've been raising this alarm over Taiwan, and the opposition party, which controls the legislature there, stalling on allowing Taiwan's leadership to follow through on its defense spending plans. Talk about AOC's answer, especially in the context of the threat that China poses in the region, while Taiwan is unable, for the time being, to follow through on those defense purchases.
I'm the chair of the East Asia Committee on Senate Foreign Relations, and my top priority is China deterrence. And you have to show strength, which clearly, if you've got somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about, you're going to project weakness. We have to show strength. That's one of the things President Trump has been doing, peace through strength. And that's, again, why I led a letter with Senator Coons, Democrat in the Senate, plus Young Kim, a Republican in the House, and Ami Bera, a Democrat in the House, to encourage the legislative yuan in Taiwan to fully fund the supplemental defense spending. We've got to send a message that we want to have strength here. The Taiwanese need to look to defending themselves first. My folks here in Nebraska are wanting to deter Communist China. We've got to know that the Taiwanese feel just as strongly about this as we do. They've got to take the first step. In our letter, we said, look, you've got to be able to step up. You've got to defend yourself. We also acknowledge that we've got to do a better job as the United States in providing the weapons. That's why, for example, I introduced the Porcupine Act to give Taiwan temporary NATO plus status so we can get weapons to them more quickly. This is a bipartisan, bicameral effort to deter Communist China from taking Taiwan. We need the Taiwanese also to step up and show they're going to be a good partner with us.
All right, critical issue. Senator Pete Ricketts, thank you so much. Great talking to you this morning.
Great. Thanks very much for having me on.
Thank you.